Test. Testing 1, 2.
Fire away. All right, we're going to call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, February 7th, 2022. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Over to number 3 and roll call. Jamie.
Mark Bittner.
Here.
Jeff Dahlke.
Here.
Tracy Coach. Here. Bill LeClaire.
Here.
Darla LeClaire.
Here.
Bonnie Shimilunas.
Here.
Larry Thomas.
Here.
Adam Husky.
Here.
And Jay Remiker is excused.
All right, and he does not want to join us via remote either, so we'll jump off of number 4 and go right to number 5, which is a public hearing, of which we have none. Moving on to number 6, input from the public. Anyone wishing to address the council on anything that's on this agenda or something they'd like to see on a future agenda, please go up to the podium, my right, your left, state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, we're going to go on to council communications. Anyone that has a letter or other communication from citizens that would like to speak here on council can do so now. Anyone have any communications they'd like to share?
Go
ahead, Larry.
There's been some with public concern around 5G.
Okay, I do think we had a public hearing on that before we passed it.
There was, there were 2 ordinances related to 5G. The one that relates to public utilities or use of the right-of-way, which didn't require a hearing, and then the zoning code amendment, which did require a hearing. Those are, yeah, I had suggested to Councilmember Thomas, given some of the concerns, it could be an information only or discussion item on the next regular agenda, understanding that municipalities are pretty constrained by federal and state regulations in terms of what they might do in terms of regulating placement of 5G.
Absolutely.
So,
okay. Anybody else? Jeff?
I just had the same thing, questions on 5G and the concerns.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, I received a couple. One of them or 2 of them are related to Project 365. One of them didn't want the splash pad to be in downtown, preferred it at Washington Park. I know we've heard that story before, but they really wanted me to address that. And also concerns over the maintenance of the ice skating rink that is going to be placed over there. I don't think from some of the meetings that I attended that it's going to be all that much maintenance, but I know I've talked with Greg, our city manager, and we did reach out to another municipality who has something like this that we are getting some answers from. So we are on top of it, but I think it's going to be a great addition to our downtown and to our city. So the last one I had was snowmobile noise on the East Twin River. I had a citizen that maybe contacted the city manager's office, possibly.
no, I'm just smiling because that's
Okay.
a recurring theme, at least when you got good ice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the lady works in Two Rivers, lives right on the river, and is complaining that the noise is excessive at night between 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. She said she gets the same thing in the summer with the jet skiers, and she said one way we could address that is taking some of the no-wake buoys and moving them a little further down. Instead of, by her, it says just slow down, and people don't really slow down, they just keep going, but no wake might help. I told her, you live next to a river, you live next to a park, you live in a downtown, you got to expect some noise. I don't think our police department has a lot of jurisdiction over the rivers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't patrol them. I know
Not
that
a lot
for
of
sure.
enforcement capabilities when it comes to marine patrol. We're
Right.
not in that business, really.
Right. So, I guess more or less telling people that hopefully that they can be good stewards of the city and maybe not be on their snowmobiles on the river going, 50 miles an hour and causing a ruckus at 11 o'clock at night. Maybe try and tame that down by about 10 o'clock or something. Bill, you had your hand up.
Within the city limits on the river, the speed limit is 25.
Okay.
That's all you can tell her.
Okay. Yeah, she's going to come back and tell me, well, how do we enforce that? And we really don't. I don't think we can. We don't have that capability.
I think we rely on the snowmobiles primarily on DNR warden enforcement activity there.
No, it's city.
Well, it is city, that's true.
Yeah, how do you enforce it? Yeah.
Right. So I guess that's just a good steward announcement to our fellow citizens to try and take other people's sleep habits into consideration. Jeff?
I did have one other one. People were, or somebody was concerned about, what's gonna happen to the asphalt or concrete, but I don't remember what on Washington Park where the ice is now. And they wanted to know why it was there and not put where the infrastructure was, where it could have been much larger.
You know, I think I received that same one, and I did reply to that person and explain to them that I don't think it's gonna do a whole lot of harm to the asphalt. Manitowoc had theirs on asphalt for many, many years and didn't have any problems. I think it'd probably do more harm to the grass. If we put it on the grass, we'd probably kill all that grass, would be my guess. And luckily for us, it should only be for 1 year anyway. Hopefully we'll have our downtown ice skating rink, but I think I received that from the same person.
Protective layer.
There's a liner on there as well that should protect it. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think I got the same one. How much more hurt does it do than having 2 inches, 3 inches of snow, ice on there, or where we dump our snow on the beach parking lots? How much more is an ice skating rink versus us dumping snow on parking lots? I don't think it hurts that much more.
I think their biggest concern was the size though. I mean, if they
Okay.
would have put it where it was supposed to be, where it was actually designed to be, it
It's a little smaller or a little big?
would have been much bigger.
Okay, so
Where the
they're
trees
just a
come in
little
a
small.
circle there in Washington Park, that's right, apparently where it was
They're
supposed
gonna
to be.
love the downtown one then, hopefully. Anybody else? All right, thank you. On to 8, council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things.
Okay, Darla?
It's been a while since I've reported on this. Our Environmental Advisory Board, we've been back in existence now for a number of months, and we're looking at a lot of different things. The quality of water when it comes into our city, how can we address some of the nutrients that are getting into it before they, from upstream? And then also green infrastructure. What are some things that the city can do and encourage residents to do to improve the environment? And we're we had a lot of educational meetings. We had Nick Vandehay from McMillan, who came in and explained how the DNR takes a look at our programs and lets us know what we need to do as far as the stormwater. And so we've gotten through the educational phase, and now we're going to go into the activity phase. What can we do as a city to improve our environment? On some things, would it be prudent for us to get in touch with our legislators, which I think we're finally getting to that point, because there's some gray area that I think we're not really. A lot is expected of us, but maybe not from some other entities, and we're kind of picking up the brunt. So anyway, just want to let you guys know that we are going forward with the EAB. And we're also looking at trees. I think that our new tree book is done. So that'll be really good, especially when we're having new projects. It'll give us a better idea as to what species of plants or trees to put in with if we're redoing a street. So and I'll be able to talk about that at a later date. The other thing I wanted to say is that the Main Street round 1 of sign and facade grant happened today. And it was last week. We received 2 applications today. The design group took a look at it, and we're going to take it to the full board next week. Both of the applications were approved, and they're great. And the last thing I wanted to say, as far as the Central Park West 365, the fundraising is, before we really even went into full court press with it, and we still aren't quite there. Our fundraising has been really, really good. And I think once we get going on some of these other initiatives that we want to do, all the way from grassroots fundraising to events. We've got such a fantastic start. I don't see us not being able to meet or exceed what it is that we need to come up with. So that's what's happening.
Okay, good. Anybody else have anything they need to report or would like to report? Mark?
Mr. President, I got a couple of things I want to talk to the city and the board and the balance of city council. The Manitowoc Two Rivers Visitor Center, I'm still on the board of directors for that group, and they will have a meeting on February 10th. So I'll be able to give you a better update of what is happening. In particular, one of the points of the agenda is their budget, which I want to get a better understanding of what and to do spending the room tax money they've collected. And the other thing is just point of reference is there's a personnel and finance committee meeting tomorrow night at, I believe, 5 or is it 5:30?
5.
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock that we're going to, thank you.
Anybody else? Bill?
I think if this goes with what Darla was talking about, but Brian, was talking about trees that people from the city could buy trees from WPPI. Was that a part of your?
That's part of it, yeah. Getting the word out to residents.
There's a program. Part of that is to have I don't know, Brian, you go out and look at the people and they make sure the trees aren't put somewhere where there's power lines or obstructions. So, what was it, 50%? Program's probably going to be on this when that start.
Is that tree replacement or is that new trees? New trees.
And those are on private property right? Yeah.
And
Basic.
I was going to say it's for south and west sides of the house. And that's something, I think we were going to put something, a circular into the utility bills, which is going to explain some of the green infrastructure ideas for residents, plus the tree program. But it's definitely worth considering because you have trees on the south and west side. You can cut down on your energy use. Stay tuned for that.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, moving on to number 9, city manager's report. Greg.
We do have an invited guest tonight. To most of you, a familiar face. Kay Coach from the Triad Committee is here to brief you and seek your support, if you're inclined, for a new fundraiser for the Triad Committee. Kay, welcome back. Former council member, as most of you know.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and so does Triad. We are a service organization affiliated with the police department and primarily with seniors. And because of the service, we do our fundraising and all goes back into the city. We have donated to the trust car. We've donated to the canine. We do shop with a cop. Originally, we started when we still had community care in the park. We were doing emergency bags for cars for seniors. So we are in desperate need of some new blood in our organization. And because of the age level, our fundraising used to be a brat fry twice a year. Well, that's 8 hours of standing frying hamburgers. We are now selling quick trip car washes. It's a lot easier. They're non-expiring. You can use them at any quick trip anywhere. You save $14 by buying it through a Triad member. It's the ultimate car wash, $36. Call any one of us at any time, unless you're going to stand up tonight, Adam, and throw me your $36. That would be nice.
I'm not going to throw it at you, but I'll give it to you.
Thank you so much. I left some brochures over here on the table so that we can continue doing this sort of thing. We do enjoy it, and we would like to see it continue.
Do you have a phone number, Kay, where people can reach you at should they be interested in buying a card or
Well,
email?
I'll tell you what I would like you to do. Call Lisa, Greg's secretary. I had my name on the sign for a while, and the better point of valor was not to put my phone number there too.
That did surprise me, although I've taken note of it.
I think I might have gotten the wrong kind of phone calls, so I just,
For a good time and a clean car. Go.
Yeah, this is safer.
City manager's office, and we get all kinds of calls already, 920-793-5532. And
See,
Lisa will
Gregory.
be happy to head Kay in your direction.
You have your money out, take it.
I do.
I'll let you.
I'll make you some change.
Sorry, Jamie, you're good.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg can go on with his city manager's report while the rest of us go buy cards.
Yes, the rest of you can transact business. Thank you, Mr. President. As Darla had mentioned, as a member of the fundraising committee for Central Park West 365, our fundraising efforts are really gearing up. We are distributing in utility bills this month, fundraising brochures, information on the project, as well as the programs for a buy a brick or buy a paver program for the area immediately in front of the bandstand at the north end of the park. I hope at the next regular meeting to give an update on fundraising, but we're seeing some good solid interest from both corporate and civic groups in the community to make this project a reality. This rendering, which is pretty much straight on, as if you were looking out the City Hall front windows onto the park, will be appearing on display on both the front of the water plant, where we will get that Christmas greeting down soon, and also over either on the bandstand or the front of the community house, depending on what the Parks and Rec director lets me do when I talk to her. In the area of tourism promotion and development, Mr. Bittner touched on this. Just by way of update, the city's room tax commission has authorized contracting with Amy James of NINA, that's Amy in the photo there, to assist in both setting up a local not-for-profit tourism organization and setting strategic direction for future tourism promotion and development in Two Rivers. Ms. James' professional experience includes work as the first tourism director for the Wapaka County Chamber for about 3.5 years, and for approximately 8 years as the executive director of Future NINA, which handles not just downtown, but downtown and cultural activities and some tourism in NINA. She has already met once in person and once via Zoom with the Room Tax Commission, sat down in her first day working with us last week with the executive director of the Manitowoc Area Visitor Convention Bureau, which, as Mark mentioned, remains in business, indicates they're committed to spending the room tax dollars that they still have that are available to spend from the cities of Manitowoc and Two Rivers for tourism promotion in the area. So we're getting into some new territory here, not all by our own choosing, as we well know, but we're moving ahead, and I can tell you the Room Tax Commission and staff are committed to seeing tourism continue to be a growing part of our economy here in Two Rivers. Work has started, if you happen to have noticed, on 20th Street down here at the East Twin River, actually between 20th and 19th Streets. The 20th Street Stormwater Pond, or Eggers Pond, contract was awarded last fall by the council. Superior Sewer and Water is excavating down to an elevation where there's been some previously documented contaminated soils. They'll be excavated and transported out to a city-owned site next to the industrial park on Miro Drive and placed in a manner prescribed by the DNR for managing those soils. Not really bad contamination, didn't have to go to a landfill or contained facility, but they are allowing it to be placed in an area adjacent to where the city constructed its disposal area for harbor dredgings out off Miro Drive. The intent with moving those excess soils from the site is to maximize the balance of the 3.5 acre former Eggers site that's available for private redevelopment. The map shown on this slide shows the pond site at the north and the roughly 2.5 acres shaded in yellow there, 2¼ acres, that remain available for development along the riverfront. The pond will treat a drainage area of about 40 acres in the downtown area. The drainage area is depicted in the map on the right on this slide. It extends up as far north as 22nd Street. On the northwest, it extends west over to Adams Street. That's all the area that will be served by the pond, including the north half of the former Hamilton property. That will, the existence of this facility will eliminate the need for redevelopment projects within that area of the downtown to have to construct on-site stormwater management facilities. So we're hoping that will help with downtown area redevelopment. This is also our first stormwater pond benefiting water quality on the East Twin River. Our other 4 stormwater ponds are all on the West Twin. So watch for some more activity down there. The fire department has taken delivery of its new used 2011 Ford F-450 with an interchangeable patient module or box. That was recently retired from the Fitchrona, kind of rolls off the tongue, Fitchburg and Verona EMS district over in Dane County, and it replaces a 2009 E-Series ambulance with 230,000 miles. You may recall from budget time, the fire department had replacement of our oldest ambulance with a brand new unit budgeted for last year, but with a lot of the COVID and microchip shortage related delays and cost increases, it was felt acquiring this existing used unit in good condition, good service record would be a prudent investment. It was a lower spend, which actually freed up some money to pay in the current year budget for the new aerial platform fire truck that will be arriving in midsummer. And that modular box is transferable to be refurbished, painted in TR Fire Department colors, and remounted probably 2 years out in the future on a new F-450 chassis, newer version of the cab chassis that's on there. So thanks to Chief Denzi and Assistant Chief Murak and Firefighter Paramedic Gunderson on their work on this project, which on a life cycle cost basis, the Finance Committee and Council agreed is a good move for the city. Thank you. Staffing updates. We do have 4 current vacancies for full-time police patrol officers. The department recently concluded 1 round of applications and screenings, identified some very good candidates, all of whom have yet to graduate the academy. They're scheduled for graduation in May. The police department is now out with a new posting and advertising and advertisement noting the availability for lateral transfer and a $5,000 signing bonus if we can bring in experienced police officers. We've experienced often enough being on the giving end or of losing officers with recruitment. We've also gained some very good officers through folks that have come here from outside agencies, and we hope that signing bonus and the opportunity for lateral entry will encourage that, because every police agency out there is facing staffing shortfalls, and we certainly want to encourage talented young people to go into police work. It's not easy work these days. We appreciate that. We congratulate, well, first, we are still recruiting for a water utility director, open till filled. Can't seem to talk Ross Blaha out of a planned retirement in June, but we want to have somebody who can pick up and continue the great work that Ross has been doing at the water utility. And I hope to have some progress to report on that in the near future. We congratulate Sergeant Nick Spurney on his promotion to patrol lieutenant in the police department. And we are also just recently out for, advertising positions for water operator full-time with the water utility. That's due to a pending retirement, and also a vacancy that is will be coming up shortly with the resignation of our senior center supervisor within Parks and Rec. So Tammy Destin recently indicated she will be leaving the position. That's an important position in that division of Parks and Rec, and we've just, I believe, advertised for that today. Jamie. That just went out today. I was looking for you in the audience. I didn't find you out there. Sorry about that. So great opportunities for career positions in city government, police, water utility, senior center, lots of places. I really like this next item because we've started saying we want to congratulate employees and thank them for a job well done. And I got an email, then a follow-up phone call 2 weeks ago from Susan Landers, a Two Rivers resident, and totally without prompting, she shared her excellent customer service stories involving 2 of our employees. First of all, he's not in the picture here, but the water service crew he supervises is over on the right on Monroe Street at a recent break. She had kudos for water distribution foreman Tom Clark for assistance with a leaky basement toilet. Now, who hasn't been plagued by one of those leaky basement toilets driving up your water bill? They're kind of the bane of, no pun intended, but the bane of many people's existence. Ms. Landers, who said I could use her name and quote her, noted, Tom spent a lot of time, did a great job in figuring things out over the phone, and even texted me the next day to see how things were going. Helped a customer get to the bottom of the problem on something that was going to be costing her more money on her utility bill. Similarly, out at the cemetery, this resident was concerned because on a family grave site, we had some pretty wild winds right after the first of the year. Cemetery Christmas wreath was blown over by the winter storm, and then the ground was hard as a rock when it came to securing it again. She left a message at the cemetery, went out, ran some errands, came home, and there was, as she puts it, a kind message on my answering machine from a man at the cemetery office who let me know they would secure the wreath for me. And later that day, I was happy to see the wreath was back in place, and it has remained so. Chris Vanderveren, whose position was just recently made full-time with this budget, took care of that, not just for Ms. Landers, but for a number of other folks. So 2 cases where people have reason to expect outstanding customer service, and kudos to Tom Clark and Chris Vanderveren for delivering that in these instances. We talk about things when we have problems in the area of service delivery. We want to talk about the good things too. Talked about the need for great young people to go into police work. Can't guarantee they'll all go into police work, but the TRPD's longstanding police cadet program, formerly known as Police Explorers, sent 4 of its members to statewide conference and competition in the Dells a couple of weeks back. The cadets, Ross Lee Reed, Caselin All, Jordan Freund, along with their mentors from the department, Officer Brianna Propson and Lieutenant Andrew Rates, had the opportunity to participate, and the cadets did take 4th place in the dispatch operations event. The Two Rivers Police Cadets have also competed at a national level as well in the past and represented the department and the community very, very well. You know, what a year to try to ease up a little bit on the on-street parking restrictions. We're in a full-blown snow drought, and as it continues, the winter parking ban enforcement remains on hold. We've had winters that wouldn't have worked out this well, but it really has this year. This one may not be real readable from a distance, but just to let you know that even as we ponder how to best promote our tourism events between the city and various local organizations like Two Rivers Main Street and Snowfest and other groups, Kiwanis with Fish Derby, there is a very full schedule again this year of summer events planned throughout the community. And we'll be queuing in more on those at future meetings. Out at the Woodland Industrial Park, if you haven't been by out there lately, the steel is in place and the siding is up. I don't think the roof is on yet, but All Energy Management, their new home, Ian Slager Holdings, well underway out at the industrial park and looking good. Those are some pictures from late this afternoon. It's really a handsome addition, $1.3 million project, assisted with a grant of up to $250,000 from Tax Incremental District 14 and a loan from the city's revolving loan fund. That company's existing 8 employees will be relocating out to that building this spring, and as council knows, 2 wind turbines will be installed in the front yard along Highway 310. Something that's an arising concern, wanted to share. I'm sure some of you have noticed it driving up and down Memorial Drive. 2 years ago, we were really sweating it because the lake was near record highs, and you'd drive up and down the drive and hope the highway was still there and the rocks that protect it. Well, the lake today is 28 to 30 inches below where it was 2 years ago. And that high water wiped out all the stabilizing vegetation and some of the protective sand ridges that used to exist between the highway and the lake. And now, kind of like I'm told we had in the mid 80s after the last high water period, we've got unbroken stretches of sand and an amazing amount of exposed beach, not just at Neshota where we love it, although it's a challenge there too, but along the drive, in particular from the Roosevelt Avenue intersection north to the lighthouse end. It's drifting, it's blowing and drifting into Memorial Drive, over the bike trail, into the landscaped areas, even over to Bank First National and Lakeshore Park. So just to let you know, we'll have a report on future agendas. We've been pushing for DOT to take some extra measures. They're responsible for maintenance of the highway up to Lake Street. We've also engaged in some dialogue with Woodland Dunes and some funding entities about grant funding options in a hurry for some longer term fixes, like maybe some large scale dune grass plantings and helping Mother Nature reestablish vegetation out there, because we don't really want to be plowing sand in the summertime. And this is just down at beach level. And you recall, it wasn't that long ago, water was lapping right at the base of that embankment along the highway. So stay tuned there. And that is, well, of course, for any Two Rivers events, explore tworivers.com. And again, that schedule of events is building. And that's all I have for this evening for City Manager's report. With the exception, no photos on it, but under the heading of Legislative Intergovernmental Update, item C, Wisconsin's rollout of federal infrastructure bill funding for local street and bridge projects. We got preliminary notice in mid-January that Wisconsin DOT should have about $1.3 billion in federal funding available over the next 4 to 5 years for local street and bridge projects around Wisconsin. I think I shared that information with the Personnel and Finance Committee the day it arrived from the League and from WISDOT. Staff has spent some time, and we're going to be spending more time, to see how we can look at our projects beyond 2017, beyond 2022. 17th Street and Zlatan, we already have programmed for this year. We'd actually have to stall those for a year to try to capture this funding. But as we look at projects in our 5-year plan beyond 2022, Roosevelt Avenue, Emmett Street and Lincoln Street on the east side, the two northernmost blocks of Washington Street, several local street projects with related utilities that we have in our 5-year plan. We want to see if we can get those queued up as soon as possible. There's an initial solicitation of projects due in April, and then a second round due in June. The state is doing a webinar, a lot of webinars on funding opportunities right now. Thursday, I believe it's Thursday of this week, and staff will be taking that in. We'll be reporting back to the Public Works Committee and to City Council on this. Obviously, we want to capture for the benefit of Two Rivers as much funding as we can, and this could really be the companion piece to the money that we know is available for lead lateral replacement. Like we've talked about, we'd prefer not to be ripping up streets solely for the purpose of cutting windows in them to replace lead laterals. It'd be a lot better if that funding could be in tandem with a more aggressive street construction schedule, if we can fund it, if we can sustain it. And the DOT funding that we're looking at here is, from what we understand, is 80% federal money, 20% local. So this may present just that opportunity to leverage these monies and be replacing what's up top as well as what's underneath appropriately. So keep an eye out for that. Honestly, one of the big fears as all of this money hits the road, or hits the roads and the bridges, is there the capacity out there to be doing that much more work? in the near term in the industry, and what's it going to do to prices. We've seen already just how hard it's been to get fittings and valves for lead lateral replacements and water projects, let alone this really rapid ratcheting up of construction activity. So it probably would be well to be in the first wave of projects that go out to the extent that we can. I put in front of you a copy also under legislative update of Assembly Bill 849. There's a companion piece in the Senate. I don't have that number, but this is a bill that would address historic fill in the Great Lakes and in commercial waterways or commercial tributaries of the Great Lakes around Wisconsin. The short version of this is, in Wisconsin, we've all heard the term public trust doctrine. The state considers waters of Lake Michigan below the ordinary high water mark, and similarly, the navigable waters of the state's inland waterways to be held in public trust for the benefit of all residents of the state. And in theory, anything that existed at the time of statehood is protected under public trust doctrine. The problem is there's been a lot of historic fill, right or wrong. There's been a lot of historic fill along those industrial or commercial river corridors in older industrial communities like ours. There's been some filling along the Great Lakes. Anything waterfront is magic when it comes to redevelopment, especially in our older industrial communities. And the League of Municipalities has been lobbying for this legislation, which would basically say, if you look at the summary on the first page, that if fill was placed prior to 1977, that created land above the ordinary high water mark on a commercial waterway or the Great Lakes, that could, the owner of the fill can use the fill for any purpose. That relates to the commercial waterways. Also, along Lake Michigan, it provides for municipalities to, a record title holder can submit a proposed shoreline to the municipality. The city would have a role approving the proposed shoreline, holding a public hearing, and then submitting its local approval to the DNR. The whole intent here is so there are fewer issues relating to legal title to lands that people have and businesses have used for years for private uses, for areas where the city might presume to develop public access facilities along the shoreline. And it specifically identifies, of course, we have our Great Lakes frontage, but it specifically identifies in Section 1 commercial waterways. And I'm sorry, it looks like page there is including the West Twin River and Two Rivers Harbor. Now, as you know, we have two rivers. You might have heard about that. That prompted a call to Senator Jacques' office to say, well, the Western River, that's good, but we have a lot of redevelopment opportunities along the East Twin. So we think we either need the East Twin in here, or please tell us what Two Rivers Harbor with a capital H means. We haven't got an answer to that latter question, but I have heard from Senator Jacques' staff that there are a couple of amendments pending to the legislation, and they will pursue adding the East Twin. Now, if Two Rivers Harbor, capital H, means the federal channel or the Corps of Engineers recognized harbor, understand on the East Twin that runs up to the 22nd Street Bridge. But the bill itself doesn't make clear, and at least last week when we talked, the senator's office couldn't give me a reference in existing statutory language as to how harbor, capital H, is defined. So it appears there's strong interest in the legislature. Dewey Struble is one of the sponsors on this. Indications I've gotten is that Senator Jacques' office is in support. I've not yet reached out to Representative Sortwell on this, but there is a hearing in the Senate tomorrow. I'm a little on the bubble as to whether to make the trip to Madison for the noon hearing, but I certainly will be intending to submit a letter, and if time permits, get a resolution in front of the council on a future agenda. This one came up within the last couple of weeks. At least it hit my radar within the last couple of weeks. So stay tuned on that. Also, if you get the league's legislative update, the update that came out today, in addition to talking about the WISDOT funding with federal infrastructure dollars and this bill, talked about pending legislation that would increase the Medicaid reimbursement rates for ambulance services. The league noted that 80% of ambulance service providers in the state of Wisconsin are municipal fire departments or fire and EMS services. And to the extent the folks that use the service are Medicaid recipients, where all providers have to accept assignment or basically take what Medicaid pays, which is way below our full rate. This is intended to provide some funding assistance to local EMS providers. And it seems there's a pretty positive outlook on that as well. I know that Chief Denzine and the Chiefs Association have been tracking that one as well. So that's what I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Quick, I want to ask one more question. Recently, our governor was in Green Bay and he talked about the tourism grants.
Yep.
Have we been informed at all? Are we in line to get any of that money?
We made application for funding assistance. Thank you for asking for for a renovated visitor center at the pump house, which we've got some architectural plans for. That was not funded. The governor's trip to Green Bay included an announcement. Green Bay got something like $2.6 million for their new tourism center. Most of the money seemed to go to the larger urban areas, other than money for soccer field lighting in one small city, which kind of confused me a little. But no, we're still looking at opportunities, but we were not successful on that one.
Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to number 10, which is the consent agenda. A is a presentation of minutes. We have one. B is minutes of meetings. We have 4 of those. Recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under C, applications and petitions, we have 3. We have the Roncalli Athletic Association TRCCS Volleyball Tournament, J.E. Hamilton Community House, Gym and Lobby, March 5th through 6th, 2022, from 7:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Number 2, we have Two Rivers Main Street, the Great Trivia Contest at the J.E. Hamilton Community House Gym, Friday, March 11th, 2022, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And under 3, we have Two Rivers Youth Sports Price is Right Game Show, J.E. Hamilton Community House Gym and Lobby, February 26, 2022, from 5 to 11. And the recommended action there is a motion to approve the applications and authorize issuance of the licenses. We're looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Second by Mark. Any discussion? This is a all in favor. So all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, takes us to number 11, which is the city council formal items. Under A, we have a resolution terminating tax incremental district number 4, Lakeshore Park redevelopment TID. The recommended action here is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. That is page 24 in your packet. Greg, do you want to lead us into that one?
This redevelopment TID has reached the end of its statutory life. The council did, I believe last year, approve a resolution extending it by 1 year, as you're allowed to help fund affordable housing activity in the city. And Dave Bliss, I know I asked you that last week, but now I'm forgetting. Does that mean, are we collecting the final year of increment in 2022? Or, okay, so last year was the last year for covering all TIF expenses. The revenue for 2022 is to be set aside in its entirety in the fund for affordable housing purposes. And then this officially brings this TIF district to an end as of the end of this year. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, looking for a motion. Thank you, Larry. Do I have a second? Thank you, Bill. Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Jamie?
Mark Bittner, Jeff Belkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinas,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. On to B, that is a resolution directing staff to proceed with activities necessary for amending the project plan for tax incremental financing district number 7 to allow expenditure of funds for planned street and utility infrastructure improvements on 17th Street and Zlatan Drive within 1/2 mile for the district boundaries. Recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. You can look to page 25 in your packet. And Greg, do you have anything on that?
This is the so-called old hospital TID that assisted with the renovation and reuse of the former Two Rivers Community Hospital. That part of it that was redeveloped as Northland Lodge. The original plan actually was to assist the developer with tearing down all of that structure. Amendment number 1 changed things when Rice Healthcare came to own it and decided they wanted help with renovating instead of tearing down. It was amended a second time as revenues were determined sufficient, and there was support from the city and the other taxing entities to tap into this TIF, which really is a one property TIF when it comes to taxable property. It is the old hospital. That second amendment was so this fund could assist with the Lincoln Avenue reconstruction project, including some related utility work it's still paying debt on, and the improvements to Garfield Street that were done in advance of Lincoln. This amendment, which I expect will be the final amendment, comes as we're 7 years from the end of this district, but still within the window where the plan can be amended. And this would be to allow funding assistance for the 17th Street project and the Zlatan Drive resurfacing that are in this year's budget. At budget time, this was identified as a likely funding source for those projects to reduce the amount of taxes for capital projects that have to be funded directly from taxpayers, if you will, through the levy. This is the comfort resolution that basically signals to staff, the Plan Commission, and the public, as well as the other taxing entities, that the city intends to pursue this amendment. It would go to Plan Commission for recommendation, Plan Commission for hearing, back to City Council for action, and would also require action of the Joint Review Board, which has representatives of the city and the other taxing entities on it. So consistent with your action in approving this year's budget.
All right, thank you very much. Looking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second? Tracy, thank you. Any discussion among council?
This TIF, is this the one that was requested for reevaluation?
There was a significant reduction in the valuation based on an appeal of the assessment by the owners. However, it doesn't have the horsepower it did before that, but at current valuation, there still is some ability to not only meet existing obligations, but undertake some additional activity. Yep.
Anyone else? All right, this is also a roll call vote. Jamie?
Jeff Pelkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinas,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey,
Aye.
Mark Bittner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, bringing us to letter C, resolution authorizing the city clerk to determine the number of election inspectors needed for elections held in the city of Two Rivers. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. You can look to page 27 for that. Intro, is that Greg or Jamie?
Jamie can fill you in on
All
this one.
right.
Sure. So this is just a little bit of a formality. State statute says that we always have to have 7 poll workers at each polling place, and 7 doesn't always work. Sometimes we need more, sometimes we need less. So rather than coming to you for every election, this just gives me the authority to determine how many we need.
Okay, sounds like a good plan to me. Looking for a motion. Thank you, Larry. Second by Bill. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. Jamie, roll call, please.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinas,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Huskey,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Pelkey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, on to D. This is a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $1,130 for stormwater system revenue bonds, Series 2022, and providing for other details and covenants with respect thereto, and approval of related $858,758 financial assistance agreement with the State of Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the Department of Administration. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the resolution. This has to deal with the stormwater pond that we were talking about just earlier, so.
Yes,
Greg.
just, to put it in context, this is really the final step on the financing for that previously approved project. Obviously, the council knew that our financing was secured when we went into it and the contract was approved. Again, this is on the former Eggers site. You've got a memo in your packets that I thought might be helpful to sort of recap this. If you want to go to the last page, agenda page 31 in that packet, it has an excerpt out of the financial assistance agreement with the state's Clean Water Fund program. In terms of total project cost, everything included, this is about a $1.2 million project. You see there on page 31, $1,206,135 inclusive of property acquisition, engineering design, project construction, and contingency. We have an urban non-point grant, stormwater grant that is providing $154,600 in assistance. There are two, that column, ineligible costs paid by the municipality. That doesn't mean we've been bad, but there are a couple of things that don't qualify. Out of the property acquisition, the grant is helping pay only for that portion where the pond is on a pretty much a straight pro rata basis. The balance of the site, which we're marketing for redevelopment, is a local funding responsibility. And also there was one element of construction that the state disallowed, which was replacement of the sidewalk along, I believe that was the East River Street side of the pond. The state said this is really outside the scope of the pond project. Nice try, but it's although it's on the site, it's public sidewalk or trail infrastructure. So that's been deleted from the contract by change order. That's not something the city's paying for either. So when you come down to it, the far right column, it is what is left to finance is an $858,758 project. We are getting 30% principal forgiveness, which is where the state applies federal funds to writing off 30% of what is otherwise a loan. The net borrowing, as authorized in the resolution, $601,130. That will be paid off as a 20-year borrowing from our stormwater utility, and it's in here somewhere. That's at about 1.38%. So it's also a subsidized interest rate for the infrastructure. As I mentioned before, this is our first stormwater pond on the East Twin, and I think a major reason the council has supported moving forward is that with this, even as we have questioned more some of the other ponds proposed, is A, it does impact the East Twin, and B, because hopefully it'll further facilitate redevelopment within the downtown area, where sometimes it's pretty hard to find a place to fit and spend the money for stormwater facilities. So with approval of this resolution, City Council would be both approving the borrowing of up to $601,130 and also approving execution of the financial assistance agreement with the state.
Okay, looking for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Darla. So we got a Tracy 1, Darla 2. Any discussion among council? Mark.
I think it's worthy for the community to know that we're not doing this. We're also monitored by the state where they evaluate our charge on a regular basis of the water that comes. And eventually, if we don't fall within the levels that the state mandates, we're going to have to pay for this anyway. This is a proactive move, a positive move on our part as a city to prevent some exceptions and good report card that we'll receive from the state in the future.
Yeah, And to just one further comment, and this is something that'll be coming up in the next few months. You'll be hearing more about it. As the state has rolled out stormwater regulations for municipalities across the state, and bear in mind right now, they apply to municipalities of 10,000 or more. I don't know if you're under 10,000, somehow your runoff doesn't do anything bad. We're often, the bigger you get, the more regulation you face. But as part of that ongoing effort, the state is developing models for each of the watersheds, and the East and West Twin River modeling for TMDL, total maximum daily loading, as far as identifying what, near as I can understand it, what the carrying capacity of those waterways is before there's major environmental degradation. Those loading limits are being developed, and if the regulations, as we expect, get tighter as time goes on, the state will be focusing more on those TMDLs and the models. That's where the East Twin River may require more attention, because again, the low-hanging fruit as far as stormwater pond locations has been on the West Twin. And we'll see where that goes, and to what extent the state continues to provide some regulatory relief to locals, which they've been doing for several years now.
When they do their testing, are they testing what we actually push out, or are they testing the water in the river after it's been put in the river? So is it coming from somewhere else, or is it actually coming from us?
And I believe in many cases it's coming from somewhere else. It's total loading. And here as Jim McDonald has pointed out, the effluent leaving our wastewater plant has lower phosphorus content than the surface water on many days flowing into the city. So
It's not always just our problem.
There are a lot of contributors to water quality issues in the watershed, including ag uses, which generally have been exempted from, and we all like our milk and our food. We're not anti-farm, but a lot of the loading in the East and the West Twin River ain't because of anything that happens in the city of Two Rivers. It's things that happen upstream. And I think, especially the council members on Public Works Committee and some of the other committees, maybe all of you will agree, too often we're the target and are bearing the costs of things that are area-wide or watershed-wide. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, Jamie, this is a roll call vote.
Carla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulunis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Husky,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Delkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to E, which is the purchase and redevelopment agreement for 2023 Washington Street, the former Unimart. Motion, recommended action is a motion to authorize the city manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the city. This is page 50 in your packet, and I believe Elizabeth is going to speak to this.
I'll pull up your presentation or your information on the agreement. Is that in a PowerPoint file? Yes. Okay.
Yes, this item is back before council sort of as a final draft or a final version of the 2023 agreement. And Greg asked that I do sort of a summary of where we're at now of the proposal that came before council. So we have put together just some slides of where we're at, what brought us here to this point. So the 2023 Washington Street project proposal, the one that was selected by council, was brought before us by Wine Not LLC to purchase the property, and the LLC was formed in 2019. And we have the members here with us, so it's kind of a little silly talking for them, but they're here with us. It's Kurt and Jean Andrews, and then Barry and Gina Cron. Their proposal won the RFP that was issued on behalf of the city for the property. Their proposal included the purchase price of $10,000 with the non-refundable amount of $10,000. So their proposal is for a multi-unit retail business at that location. It's a three-pronged approach for the use of that facility, one of which is rentals. And we'll have some better pictures than we did last time at closed session. So it'll be rentals of a lot of different recreational opportunities. Part of the building will also be used for a gift store. It's called Briars and Brambles. It is the second location here in Two Rivers. The other one is located in Crivets. And then the other component within this retail facility will be a gelato bar called Buckets Gelato. So the next slide, Greg. All right. So this is what they provided for us. What the top photo for you is, of course, what we have now, and then their vision of what the building will look like. It will be occupying, sort of compartmentalized, but yet it will occupy all three, and they'll kind of flow through. We'll have the rentals, the gift store, and then the gelato bar. There will also be some outdoor seating that they envision. But of course, this is the initial rendering before they have their design and specs finalized. And then the next slide, we start looking at some of the components that they're proposing. So outdoor rentals. So for rental recreation, the Explore Two River rental component, they're looking at kayaks and paddle boards, rentals for e-bikes, and rentals for golf carts to move folks around all over town. Also, the opportunity for kick sleds, which is something I learned about from them, which can be used on ice surfaces. And then other winter sport activities, snowshoes, and other things that they will be looking at exploring to offer some wintertime recreation to get folks out and about during the winter months. The next idea that they have is securing the next location for Briars and Brambles. So that will be, it's a gift and other home goods, gift opportunities, probably some clothing and other neat things to shop for, probably geared a lot toward visitors, but also something that residents would like to do to buy gifts for their friends and family. So that's what that store will be specializing in. And then the next part of the store will be Buckets Gelato. So envisioning and using the beach theme, using buckets perhaps to serve gelato. If you don't know what gelato is, of course, it's a different type of ice cream. It doesn't have eggs and it's very good. So this is what they're going to be using, and they'll be cross-promoting with CCB and serving the same type of desserts and other items like coffee. And they will be using the outdoors when there are seasonal opportunities to do that. So those are some of the ideas that they have in the store that they will be doing. And I think I wanted to summarize in the final slide here that just the terms of the agreement that we highlighted, that site and architectural plans are to be submitted and receive approval within that 180-day window after signing of this agreement upon approval by council. The investments that they are to make are to be the minimum of $100,000, but that's what they need to do by verifying and showing the documentation of that investment into the property by members other than Wine Not LLC. And then the project date of completion is the last date. It's July 31, 2023. So some of the changes that we needed to make in the agreement itself have been made. I inserted the email address. And just to kind of summarize that and distinguish that the city represents the city council, I inserted that under item number 16. So where it says the binding agreement, this agreement as approved by the city council. So I hope that I captured those changes that were requested and did an adequate summary. And if there are any questions about the development, we have obviously the representatives, and that's the summary.
All right, so we are looking for a motion here before we discuss. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Larry. Second, Darla. Now, council discussion. No, Larry?
Will you plan to maybe invite tourists to enjoy winter sport here? Because I know this is very much tourist summer, and there's very few opportunities. Focus on rental equipment in the winter as hard as you will in the summer.
For the viewers at home, Barry Cron from Wine Not.
Yes, that'll be a focus. It'll be a summer leg to start, but yeah, to bring winter stuff in also, because we know winter is
a few months here, so we don't want to miss out on income that we can bring in for winter months where instead of just sitting there with the building empty.
How much space will the gift shop occupy, do you think?
Gift shop will be about 2/3 of it,
About 2/3 of it, okay.
will be the biggest portion.
So I mean, a lot of your rental stuff will probably be outside. Obviously, golf carts and that stuff will be hanging out in the outside area. Yep. Okay. Anybody else? Jeff?
I just want to say, just for the record, that since they're co-owners are next door neighbors of mine, and potential public interest or perception, I'm gonna have to abstain for voting.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
How many people are gonna be employed?
So it'll be variant on the different businesses. The gift shop, she'll be at about 2 to 3, depending on seasons and that kind of stuff. The rentals, 1 to 2 to start, might be more as we grow it. And then buckets about the same area, so.
Great. Anything else from council? All right. Hey, Greg?
Adam, if I could just, and this maybe is more for the viewers at home, but just to the context of this, this is pretty cool, and I certainly encourage council favorable action tonight. This is a property that is sat vacant as a blight on our main street for about 12 years. It was owned by Gerpal Wisconsin Stations, a Mequon-based entity that is the owner of record of a lot of vacant former gas stores and C-stores all over the state. It was 10 years tax delinquent, and really it was as a result of this council's or prior council's willingness to step up, work with Manitowoc County, which was a good partner. The county assigned to the city its rights to take the property for back taxes under a section of state law, 75.106 agreement, it's called, referencing state law section, that allows, in the case of properties with some contamination history, doesn't mean you should run fleeing out the door when you look at them, but properties like old gas stations where things tended to leak in the good old days, to facilitate their redevelopment. Manitowoc County has typically not wanted to touch properties that have any history of contamination. The city recognized through dialogue with DNR that while there's some residual contamination at depth on the site, because the prior owner, back when it was, under, a lot of you remember Bill Springer's ownership of the Unimarts, when the tanks were removed back in the 80s, which is when there was a recorded case of leaking underground tanks there, it was remediated then to the extent the DNR required. So the city's goal, the council's goal in picking up this property wasn't to turn a big profit on flipping it so much as to see it return to the tax rolls and become a productive use instead of an eyesore on our downtown Main Street. There was a contract last year in place that didn't work out. So the request for proposals Elizabeth mentioned went out in late November, early December. There were 2 respondents and that were reviewed in, their proposals were reviewed in closed session, and they were both very solid. One was for investment for redevelopment, sort of as a whiteboard renovation, looking for tenants. Clearly, the Why Not proposal came with some real specifics as far as tenants and downtown impact. So I just want to illustrate, while it may look like it's just been sitting there, the last 2 years since the city council stepped up and said, this is in our downtown and we need to make something happen, have been of consequence. And we're really grateful for the investors that have come forward. So, and frankly, kudos to our community development director for working hard on this. Believe me, there's been more than half a dozen showings of this property, and these folks are taking it on.
Jeff?
At what point will this get put back on a tax roll?
The January 1 is the magic date each year, so 1/1 of 2023. And then there'll be, you can look forward to that first tax bill come out in December of 03 in support of the 2024 city budget. So typically about a 2-year there. Yep. Thanks for giving me some airtime. This is redevelopment 101. It's good stuff.
Anybody else? No? Well, thank you to the Andrews and the Crons for making that investment in Two Rivers. We certainly appreciate it. It's going to add a lot of value, not only to our downtown, but to our city as a whole. And it's going to help pick up a property that's been blighted for quite some time in our downtown and really make it look like it belongs not only in our downtown, but it belongs in 2022 and not back in the 80s. So thank you very much for cleaning up that property. All right, we need a roll call vote on this. Jamie?
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinas,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Wesky,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Delkey,
Abstain.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you guys again. On to F. We have a sex offender residency appeal. The recommended action here is a motion to approve the requested waiver based on a recommendation by the police chief. Tonight, we have Detective Wiesner here who will lead us into this one.
You guys should all have received the letter, correct, from the police chief, so that's in there, as well as you received the letters from Mr. Wilkes and Miss Levine, who are also present tonight. So in the letter, I'll just summarize what it says since it was put out there and you all have copies of it. We received a notification from the Wisconsin Sex Offender Registry that Mr. Wilkes moved into the city and was going to be residing at 1617 20th Street with his daughter, Miss Levine, who had been residing at that address since August of 2020. In looking at his violation, he was an offender out of the state of Michigan in 1997 for criminal sexual conduct, second degree, which is sexual contact of any intimate body part of somebody under the age of 13. So that required a lifelong registration status for the state of Michigan, which was transferred over to the state of Wisconsin approximately 7 years ago. And he was not living in the city of Two Rivers, but currently moved to the city with his daughter. So once I realized that he was outside of our new residency restrictions, I contacted them. They immediately asked how to appeal, and they both wrote letters to the city, which you have copies of. Don't want to go into detail of those out of respect for health, privacy reasons and victim privacy reasons. We can see in those letters the reasons that they were asking for that waiver. And I also did an investigation looking into the charges from Michigan, a criminal history check, looking at prior residency in the state of Wisconsin and if there was any violations or offenses while living in Wisconsin. Also looked into some of the stuff that was brought up on the letters as far as the health concerns and just verifying those and that they were not just something minor. So that was all looked into. And then as you can see, I'll just read this last part here, that based on the results of our investigation, it is our recommendation that a waiver be provided in this case and Mr. Wilkes be allowed to reside in the city of Two Rivers without penalty. But this is narrowly related to just the residency portion of the ordinance. So the other things would still be in place as far as going to parks, beaches, participating in trick-or-treating and those kind of events. So that would still not be allowed. This is just for the waiver for the residency. That was made mostly on the fact that both the complainant and victim of the alleged assault in 1997 spoke on behalf of Mr. Wilkes, and that they actually are trying to get that overturned. Him being an offender and the conviction back from 1997. So it was made based on that information. And then also that his health is such that his daughter's care is believed to be regularly needed and or necessary. And she will be at home providing health care to him. We always look at the, is this a danger to the public when we're considering these things? And we believe that a waiver under these circumstances that exist does not appear to be unreasonable, and increased risk to the public also does not appear to be present in this case. So we are looking at providing a waiver for the residency for Mr. Wilkes.
Okay, thank you very much. If you want to hang up there just in case we have any questions, looking for a motion. Darla, do I have a second? Bill, council, any discussion?
I just want to make, if I could, Mr. President, I want to make a comment to all parties involved. I appreciate the professionalism, the way this has been handled. Safety of the city is guaranteed, and I appreciate supporting this.
Larry?
Is the waiver, this is just for clarification, is the waiver a permanent waiver or does it get reevaluated every once in a while?
No, it would be a permanent waiver at this point.
Jeff?
Going to be revoked at any time.
I guess that would be a question for the council or our city attorney.
The provision of the ordinance that refers to appeal and waiver doesn't really talk about a revocation, but I would think that if there is a change in circumstances, there may be other bases on which to revoke the waiver. But I mean, the language is specific to residency requirements. A balance of the ordinance, excuse me, would still apply. So if there are violation of its other terms, then obviously the ordinance would require imposition of the penalties specified in the ordinance itself.
One would think if he violates anything within that waiver ought to be revoked, because that's kind of what a waiver is. We're waiving someone in from our rules, and if you would break those rules, one would think you could revoke that. Is that a fair assumption?
I would think that certainly if the circumstances turn out to be different than what's represented by the persons requesting the waiver, that would be a basis on which to revoke the waiver. The other violations, if there are violations of other portions of the ordinance, I think that would relate purely to those portions of the ordinance as opposed to waiver. What I'm trying to say, and I know I'm not saying it well, is that if circumstances turn out to be such that the basis for the waiver no longer applies, I would think there'd be some mechanism to modify the waiver or to revoke. It's not directly addressed by the ordinance as written.
Okay. Does that help, Jeff? Okay. Anybody else?
Would just like to add to that, I already addressed, the other parts of the ordinance that are still going to be in effect, as well as the state of Wisconsin sex offender registry rules and the state of Michigan, which originally put those in place. So all those will still exist as well.
Thank you.
Just a message to the public. There has been letters, as Detective has just spoke about, that have come before council with some sensitive material on it. Trust us when we know that there's other stuff to this that go into us allowing this, should all council members vote for that. But the police department has done their due diligence via Detective Wiesner and Chief Kohlmeyer. And they also obviously have seen those letters and know the circumstances behind it, of which he recommends that we pass this. So know that we're not just randomly passing this and accepting sex offenders into the city of Two Rivers to create harm or havoc. That is certainly not the case in this situation. And I think the police department did a great job on investigating this. And I think we've all done our due diligence in reading all the material that was provided for us. Jeff?
I just like to say thank you for being honest about everything and coming forward and bringing this to everybody's attention. You could have just slid under the radar and nobody would have known. So I appreciate the honesty.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we will do a roll call vote on this. Jamie?
Bonnie Shimulunis,
Aye.
Larry Thomas,
Aye.
Adam Husky,
Aye.
Mark Bittner,
Aye.
Jeff Delkey,
Aye.
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. On to G. It is the city manager's appointment to Committee on Aging, Jacqueline Ackerman, I believe is how you say that. The recommended action here is a motion to approve the appointment to a term expiring May 1st of 2024. Anything you need to add to this, Greg?
Not really. I expect some is Ackerman's application. It's in your packets at page 56.
All right, looking for a motion. Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second? Larry, thank you very much. Any council discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, for information only, Greg.
Just a reminder of upcoming work session, upcoming regular meeting, February 21st, 2 weeks from tonight, and then the monthly work session on the 28th. Also, something that I didn't put in my report, but we'll have on future agendas. We will, the Two Rivers as a community will be hosting another visit of a delegation from our sister city of Domažlice in the Czech Republic, late May, early June. 10 high school band students with accompanying chaperones will be visiting that were involved in the exchange when our band went there 2 years ago, just as COVID was starting to heat up, pre-COVID actually, fall of 19. There will also be an official city delegation of 10 members, including, I believe, Mayor Novak, as well as someone who is new in the position of mayor since the last time Domažlice had a delegation here in 2019. Funding for the visit and the activities here is handled through the Sister Cities Committee, which at least operates, I think, under the 501c3 of the Historical Society. But it will be an opportunity for the council and our city staff to host a visit here at City Hall by their city delegation, and likewise greet them at various activities. They will be arriving Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, May 28, and departing the following Saturday in early June. So let's make sure we'll get more information out to you. But I tell you, the historic link through World War II and Domažlice being liberated by a native son whose family had emigrated to the U.S. is really amazing. And what Patrick Duane has brought about by bringing together these sister cities is pretty amazing. So he will be doing a performance of The Accidental Hero, his stage show about Lieutenant Colonel Matt Conup, his grandfather, and his experience in World War II and in the liberation of the western portion of Czechoslovakia. Western portion. More to come. Thank goodness we have a great citizen committee. Brenda Kaprowski chairs it. It's in very capable hands.
Mark.
I've got one question for Greg, information. Given the fact that we have an upcoming election, is there any updates about where the community can hear the candidates talk about their views?
The League of Women Voters and the TRBA, to my knowledge, have both committed to sponsoring candidate forums. Jamie, do you have the date for the league? I know this is a February date.
Yep, the league's is on February 24th at 6:30 p.m. And then TRBA's is on March 10th.
We, as staff, have indicated the council chambers would be available for those and/or any other candidate forums that community groups want to sponsor, so we can facilitate putting it on cable and live streaming it out on Facebook. There may be other candidate events I'm not mindful of, but as far as folks that have been in touch with the city, League of Women Voters and Two Rivers Business Association, maybe the chamber. The chamber often does candidate forums as well in both cities.
I know they had a meeting the other night. They were going to discuss it, and I haven't heard anything.
Bill?
I think the Herald Times is gonna do an article which asks
Anything else? All right, and no need for a closed session, or do you want to go?
No, I'd mentioned to President Wahusky just before the meeting, the first order issue we have as far as assistance to development projects is 3000 Forest Avenue and possible assistance through Tax Incremental District 15. That is the sole topic of tomorrow night's Special Personnel and Finance Committee for closed session discussion. So I'd like to hold off any details of that so we can do a deep dive, if you will, at Personnel and Finance and bring something back to council. The only other thing we've got out there right now is, and this really, I think, can be all open session, should be all open session, as the city attorney would remind me, is fashioning a program for facade grants from funding approved in this year's budget for facade work on projects that lie outside the Business Improvement District or Main Street District. Darla mentioned earlier, 2 applications for Main Street's facade grant program, where the city has made a commitment to match dollar for dollar what Main Street invests, up to $10,000 total, 5 apiece per grant. We also have out of Fund 290, the Economic Development Fund, a separate budget allocation. Memory serves, that was $20,000 for, which could include grants outside of the business improvement district. And we have at least one business that's expressed an interest in that. So, but long story short, Mr. President, yes, I would request we not pursue the closed session this evening.
All right, so then we're gonna go right to 15, which is a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second? Thank you, Tracy. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Good night.